Rob Lanzetti. How you doing?
All right, how are you?
I'm fantastic. Thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Where are you coming from right now? Where are you joining us?
I'm in Brooklyn right now.
Nice. What part?
Right by the park, like Flatbush Avenue.
Oh, wait, Prospect Park?
Actually, Ocean Parkway. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I'm off the C train. I'm off right around Nose Train off Fulton Street.
Okay. Yeah, I
Yeah.
used to live. On Notion between Putnam and Madison.
Okay. Yeah.
So I think that's close to you.
Yeah. I'm like right near. Actually, Nose Train's just like the main station. I'm actually off Kingston, so like about 10 minutes from there.
Yep,
But
I
like
used to live over there too.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm on.
I live down off the 405.
Oh, okay. Nice.
But basically Kingston Utica was closest to me, but that's like
Yeah.
the next stop.
Mine's Kingston Throop, so I'm right
Yeah.
off Throop,
Yeah.
which is nice. It's been nice. So yeah, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. Again, I'm gonna say that
Yeah.
a bunch. I always end up saying that way too much, but I do really appreciate it. So I was actually gonna start off by asking. So like now that the city is kind of reopened and you've been here for so long, if you've had the opportunity to really check out the city as it's been now that everything's kind of getting back to normal. But you were at Rockwood a couple of nights ago, right?
Yeah. Yeah, just on Tuesday.
Okay,
night,
yeah. And you're with Zach Brock and Keita
Keita?
Ogawa.
Yeah.
Keita? I didn't know how to pronounce his name.
Yeah. Yeah, it was really cool. It was great to be back there. I mean, they've only been doing shows since like I think June 3rd they opened back up.
Is that the first time you've played with that specific trio?
Yeah, actually it was. Me and Zach just did like a little duo tour.
Mm-hmm.
For just like 4 shows like in like upstate New York.
Wait, what parts
was-
of upstate?
We played in Rochester, Buffalo.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
I'm originally from I'm about an hour and a half below Rochester. I'm from central New York, like Utica, Syracuse area.
Okay, yeah, we played in Syracuse too.
Oh, really? Yeah. Did you guys when you were playing with Snarky Puppy, you guys came to Syracuse at one point too. And the reason for that was actually my father decided to get into the music promoting business, and he booked that gig. And that was,
wow.
I think that was like, geez,
That was probably a while ago.
2016, I think, because it was
Yeah.
right. It was I think it was right after Family Dinner 2, and then right before Culture Vulture came out. I
Okay,
think.
where did we play? Do you remember?
It was it the Landmark? Oh my Lord, I can't even think now. Yeah, I think it was the Landmark Theater in Syracuse.
Yeah, we just played at Funkin' Waffles.
Hell yeah, Funkin' Waffles is one of the best spots. They used to have a second one that was, I think the one now is just in downtown, but they used to have one at SU, Syracuse University.
Oh,
and then
okay.
they had one, and that one got knocked down. I think I actually played a gig at it, and then it got knocked down like 2 months later or something like that.
Wow.
So it goes to show you how bad we were. But they did one, they had one in Rochester too. And then that one, I think like last year, it might have even been right before the pandemic. I don't even know if COVID had anything to do with it, but that one got shut down. So we only got the one. But I love Funkin' Waffles.
Yeah, it's cool. It was fun. And then we played at Love and Cup in Rochester.
I don't know
Which is
that
cool.
place. I've
Yeah.
only been to Rochester a few times. I have a really good friends that live up there, but I've only been there a few times. It's good.
Yeah,
good spot.
it was cool. Yeah, it's like outside of downtown. It's like I don't remember which direction it is, but it was like 6 miles or so out of downtown. But it was super cool.
How was the crowd at the Rockwood show?
It's great.
Really?
Yeah.
Full house?
Not sold out, but it felt good. It was.
Was
a
it
good amount of
which
people.
stage was it? Because what are there? There are 3
2.
stages at Rockwood, right?
Yeah, it was
Okay.
2.
Is 2
Yeah.
I haven't been there in so long. Jeez, is 2 one's the one that has the bar and then the drums sit off on the side of the stage?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's 1.
Yeah, my buddy, or my roommate actually, he subs for Adam Neely's band Aberdeen every once in a while, and I think they usually play stage 2 or something like that.
Yeah, 2 is the bigger one, and then 3 is the newest one, which is like in the downstairs in the big room on Orchard Street.
Gotcha.
It's like across the alley. Basically.
Did they make you was everyone allowed to not have to wear masks, or did they make you wear masks?
Yeah, no, they were only doing fully vaxxed people.
Yeah.
So you had to have proof, and then you could not wear a mask. But they just changed that, I think, because they just lifted those restrictions in New York.
Oh, I didn't know
So
so the restrictions now apply to non-vaccinated people too. I didn't know that.
yeah, well, yeah, at Rockwood at least now I think you can go in even if you're not vaxxed.
Gotcha. Yeah, I saw about 2 weeks ago. I think I got a ticket to go see Fallon at 30
Uh,
Rock,
oh,
and
okay.
they were. I don't know if it might have been just because the city recently reopened. Maybe they were. It's just because it was a couple weeks before that. They were pretty strict about like you had to
Hmm.
wear a mask the whole time. And then I went to go see Colbert, I think like 3 days ago, and that was the first time that I went into a theater and it was like
Hmm.
no, only like a couple people were wearing masks because it was
Yeah.
optional. It's nice. It's nice to see a show, especially for me because my eyesight is shit, so I have to wear glasses. When you have a
Oh,
mask
okay.
on and everything's fogging
Yeah. Oh,
up, it's
yeah. God,
miserable.
I know. I feel you.
Yeah. So
It's the worst.
I wanted to go back and ask because I like to go through like the chronologically everyone's history. So you
Hmm.
live in Brooklyn now, but you're originally from the Jersey Shore, right?
Yep.
Okay. How's it? I always hear that Jersey's got like the best freaking Italian food. Is that true?
It is really good. I think it's actually probably well, this might be blasphemous, but I think it's maybe better than New York Italian food.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, of course there's great Italian spots in New York too, but especially North Jersey, I think has a lot of good Italian food. And where I'm from, there's not a ton, but there's a lot of pizzerias, good pizzerias and stuff,
Hmm.
you know.
What did your parents do when you were young?
Well, my dad worked for AMP,
Hmm.
like the food store as a like a warehouse man. And then he retired from that and then worked for the postal service.
Gotcha.
And my mom at the time she worked for ShopRite, so they should have been competitors, I guess. And but for years now she's been working at a community college like in administrations.
Hmm. Now that
Yeah.
you've seen both Jersey and Brooklyn, do you think are you happy that you got to grow up in Jersey, or would you have been fine growing up in Brooklyn and just staying there your whole life? Besides moving to Texas.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's good things about both. I mean, I liked where I grew up and I liked, high school and everything was
Yeah.
was cool. And there was like a few good musicians there too, actually. So it was nice to have some people to learn from.
Hmm.
Um
You study with Vic Juris, right?
yeah, I studied with Vic, probably around 18, something like
Yeah.
that, for like probably about 2 years. Basically
That
until I went to North Texas, I studied with Vic.
Gotcha. Vic was the absolute man. He taught. I just graduated from the
Hmm.
new school, and
Oh yeah.
He taught there, and I've only gotten to
Yeah.
talk to him a few times. I went to a camp. Geez, I think it was like 2015 or something like that. I went to a
Yeah.
camp where he was a teacher, and that was
Hmm.
ironically, I think the most I ever got to talk to him. But man, that was such a loss. That was last year, right?
Hmm.
2020.
Yeah.
It was so that
He
was one.
was, yeah, he's amazing. He was amazing.
Absolutely amazing. And I remember
Yeah.
the one thing I really remember about Vic is he said this was actually when I was at camp, I wasn't in college. He was like, don't, it was like some guitar ensemble. And he's like, don't do this thing. He says, every jazz guitarist, they do a cool lick and then they end it by just going down. They go, boo-ba-doo-ba-doo, and they go down the string. He's like, every jazz guitarist. And that's one of those things that you hear once and then
Yeah.
for the rest of your life, it just like eats at your brain. That's
Yeah.
like one of those things about jazz guitar that I've always noticed is that
That's
every
funny.
lick ends with that thing. And he was like busting people's balls about it and like, yelling at them, but, kind of funny about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Right.
that has always stuck with me. So, man.
That's funny. Yeah. He's
Um,
like, I think people who know him know that he's like the baddest dude, but,
yeah,
but I still feel like he's underrated in the sense that so many people just aren't really aware,
that's totally true. He's
you
definitely
know?
not like a household name like
Yeah.
Matheny
And
or
he's like,
Schofield.
I think he's like, as far as like solo guitar, especially, I think he's my favorite in the world.
Really?
Yeah. He is. He just like, I think he recorded, well, it's not solo guitar, but he recorded a duo record with his wife, Kate
Hmm.
Baker. And I don't think it's released yet. I really hope they put it out. But I heard a couple tracks from it, and it was amazing.
Really?
It was crushing.
So wait, you don't know if they have any actual plans to put it out fully?
I don't know. I hope she does. I'm not sure what her plan is with it, but and I don't know if they
Is there anyone
recorded.
else is there like a label involved? Do you know?
I don't know. I don't know anything else except for the fact that I heard like a couple tunes from it,
Damn.
and
I hope
he
that
is
comes
just
out.
on
Now I want to
fire.
hear
Yeah,
it.
yeah. I mean, it's like my favorite. Like I said, it's not solo guitar, but But when he's like soloing, it's just him by himself.
Gotcha.
You
And
know,
so wait, you said how old were you when you first started to take it with him?
I was about 18,
Gotcha. And so it was
something
like
like that.
18 until you ended up moving to Texas.
Yeah, so I guess maybe it was only a year. I don't know. Maybe must have been like a year and a half or something.
Gotcha.
You
Okay.
know?
What did you do before you really started playing guitar? Did you have any other like career paths, especially as like a kid, that you were interested in, or is it just always guitar or music in general?
Yeah, not really. I mean, when I was like really young, I had like, the typical kid stuff. Like I wanted to be an astronaut at one point, just random stuff like that. And I was really into like space and, in science, I guess too. So
So that actually there might have been some like weight to that
yeah,
aspiration.
but
Yeah.
when I found out that you have to have 20/20 vision, then I knew I could never be an astronaut. So then I gave it up.
Can't you can get like LASIK, right? Doesn't that technically give you 20/20, or do you have to have like
Maybe
natural
now,
20/20?
not back then. I don't think.
I think my brother is might get that because he's training to be a pilot actually, and
Oh,
his
cool.
vision is like absolutely miserable. And mine is
Oh,
starting
wow.
to go. I feel like an old man. Like I don't know what it is. Like my eyes have just started to go recently. So honestly,
Yeah.
I'm considering it. It's probably
Yeah.
because doing this show, I'm staring at a screen, all
Yeah.
day, and that's
Yeah.
absolutely
It's not the best
miserable.
thing for you, for sure.
No, it absolutely sucks. I talked to a guy at a Verizon store once who said that he had to get glasses because he worked at Verizon so long that his eyes just went to like absolute crap. And
Yeah.
that's just depressing to think about that a
Yeah.
screen can really damage your eyes that much.
Yeah. That's
But
crazy.
so wait, how old were you when you really started getting into music? What got you into it?
So yeah, I was about 12 when I really started getting into it. And my dad actually is a guitar player too. So, and at that time, when he was that age, it was kind of like semi-pro. It
Hmm.
was almost like a side job, you know,
Gotcha.
for him. So it was like, he was always practicing and playing along with records and stuff like that. So that was the main thing that got me into it in the first place. And I was
R-
super into the Beatles. That was
Really?
like that was the first thing I really liked a lot. And then my dad had a Beatles songbook.
Oh,
So
perfect.
I just started sort of picked it up and started kind of learning songs out of there. They had the chord diagrams.
Hmm.
So I would kind of learn out of there. And yeah, I mean, that was like a pretty big obsession for a while, And I kind of taught myself. I mean, my dad helped a little bit, but he wanted me to like sort of try and learn on my own, which I think was really a good idea rather than just like showing me songs.
Hmm.
He kind of pushed me to like use my ears to learn.
That makes sense. That's a good way to go because then you can. That's definitely
Yeah.
more effective, especially if you're trying to make money. I think that's like the most important thing is just being able to
Oh
like
yeah.
quickly
Yeah.
pick up stuff. Especially if
Yeah.
you get hired by somebody and they're paying by the hour and they don't want to spend 4 days to teach people their music because then they're gonna go
Yeah.
broke. Having that skill
Yeah.
is definitely much more
Yeah.
applicable.
Yeah. I think it's like the most important thing you can have
Yeah.
together is being able to hear stuff. So, yeah, so I got into eventually, picking out stuff by ear and then I was playing with his band for a little while. Um, so that was kind of the very beginning
So
of it.
wait, were you just like subbing for your father, or were you playing like rhythm?
Yeah, I was just playing rhythm.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So wait, were there any other like famous guitarists besides I guess like George Harrison that you listen to and you're specifically like I gotta sound like this guy?
Um, I don't know if I necessarily wanted to sound like them, but I was really into, I guess in those really early days, I was really into Clapton.
Hmm.
Um, I got really into Zeppelin, so I was really into Jimmy Page. I got really into Pink Floyd. So it was kind of all that real classic rock stuff.
Hmm.
I would say like my biggest influences at that time were probably David Gilmour and Jimmy Page.
Gotcha. And between
Yeah.
that time that you started playing guitar and your dad was showing you stuff, besides your father, and up until when you started taking with Vic, were you completely self-taught, or did you have other teachers between that period?
No, I met a guy named Chris Bono who was like my first like real guitar teacher.
Hmm.
And that was like that was one of my best teachers I've ever had to this day. I mean, he was like really kind of the guy that showed me what it even meant to be a professional musician. Before then,
Hmm.
it was like I had no idea what that even meant.
So
To
did
me, it was
you?
like, to me, it was like either you're successful and you're like Jimmy Page, or you're nothing. You know, I didn't, I, I didn't like realize that like, oh, there's so many people that are just like working musicians.
Hmm.
They just play gigs and they teach and they do this and they do that. And it's like, I didn't, as a kid, I didn't even realize that that was a thing, you know?
In your teens, were you actively seeking out the idea of trying to make some money with music? Did you see it? Like you said that you didn't see it as being like, it was like nobody's and then Jimmy Page. But once you
Yeah.
found out that there was that kind of working class musician, was
Hmm.
that something that you were specifically striving to do? Were you trying to, you're still living in your house, you're still a kid, but
Hmm.
metaphorically pay your bills just through music?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, by the time I was like 16, which I guess was probably about the time I started studying with him,
Hmm.
I knew I wanted to do it for a living. And then
Was
after
your
studying with him and realizing how many avenues you could take, that's when it started to become like more realistic,
were you making some money with your dad's band?
No, I mean we mostly they didn't play too many gigs by that point. They had played more when I was really young.
Gotcha.
So we
Okay.
just kind of it was kind of almost just a hobby. We just kind of got together for fun.
What was it that brought you
So,
to University of North Texas?
well, that was just, through studying with this guy Chris, I knew that I wanted to go to school for jazz.
Hmm.
So I applied to William Patterson and Rutgers in Jersey because I heard that they had really good jazz programs. I didn't get into either of them. And then I had found out later that I think Rutgers accepted no guitar players that year,
Really?
and William Patterson accepted like one or something like that.
My
They
school had
were
the
like,
absolute opposite problem. When I my first grade, my grade at the new school was I think 35 guitarists,
yeah,
as opposed to like I think two trombonists and like
yeah,
three saxophone players.
yeah. Well, William Patterson and Rutgers were just really small programs.
Hmm.
So, I mean, I don't even know why they bother having auditions if they knew they weren't going to take anyone at Rutgers.
Well, some people are just
But
jerks, I guess.
yeah, so then I went to community college for a year, and then the following year I went to North Texas. And the only reason I applied was just because I wanted to go somewhere if I wasn't going to get into William Patterson or Rutgers.
Okay.
I applied to those again and didn't get in again, but I got into North Texas. So I was like, well, and I heard so many good things about it. So I was like, well, I'll just go.
Did you know anybody going in that had gone there or was currently going there?
No, but I had heard about it through various people, and I knew some people who had gone there and had graduated. You
Gotcha.
know,
Okay. Actually, I had Chris McQueen was on my show last week,
ah,
and he was talking about. Anyway, of course, he also went to North Texas. What grade was it? What grade were you in when he got there? When he was a freshman?
I'm a few years older than him. I would say I don't remember. It might have been like my third year
Okay, gotcha.
when
Well,
he
then
came in.
how is it? Because he said that his freshman orientation was with Mike League.
Mhm.
How did you end up meeting those guys? Were you just kind of the person that was always friendly with like the lower classmen? Kind of knowing everyone who's at the school.
um, n- I wouldn't say necessarily that. I think it was just I don't know. We all just kind of mingled together
Hmm.
anyway. Um, I think we just like ended up playing with mutual friends on some sessions. And
Gotcha.
then me and Mike actually, the first time I met Mike, we were actually in a combo group together for
Hmm.
a class.
Okay.
That was actually my first time playing with him. And I mean, we just hit it off. Mike's a really personable, friendly guy. So, we became pretty good friends pretty quick.
Hmm.
So then we just like kept playing. We played with a lot of different groups together before he started Snarky Puppy.
Okay. Were you working a lot throughout your time in college?
Yeah. First couple years, not really, but then I was playing with some like wedding bands and stuff like that, and other gigs here and there as well. And then like just a lot of creative groups inside and outside of school.
Did you work any
Um,
non-music related jobs?
Not in Denton. I did in the summers in Jersey,
Did you have
and
any
then one
like
time,
do you have any plan Bs while you were in college thinking about like, oh, I'm
no,
if this doesn't work out, that's not it?
no, I had. I mean, I probably should have. I don't know if that's true. I don't know if I maybe take that back. I think you got to put like all of your effort into it,
I
and
agree.
just I think you just kind of have to like assume that it's going to work out,
Hmm.
you know?
And,
I
and so
mean, so I don't know. It's like I think it's better to like really reach for what you want to do rather than just do something out of fear,
yeah, that makes
you know?
total sense. I mean, the people who really, do this just go at it 150% and just
Yeah.
say every time it fails, they just say, screw it, I keep going, which is, impressive.
Yeah. I mean, and sometimes it doesn't work out, but I think it's worth trying to really make it happen rather than just like, putting energy into something that you don't want to do.
There was an actor once I heard who said something like, who was it? It was the Michael Caine, I think, said that he's like,
Mm,
every 10 things you do, maybe one of them will succeed. So always do
mhm.
10 things simultaneously.
Yeah.
And I've kind of that ratio is actually kind of accurate. I found
Yeah.
that
That's funny.
if you try, and whether it's like 10 songs or 10
Hmm.
albums
Yeah.
or like in the case of this show, it's like when I send emails out to see if people want to be on the show. If I send 10 emails out, maybe one person will, respond, or
Oh, wow.
maybe one person will say yes, and maybe even one person will just even respond.
Mm, wow.
But yeah,
Yeah.
so immediately following college, what are you doing? Are you just saying, I want to stay in Texas? Had Snarky Puppy formed by the time you graduated?
It was kind of right around the same time.
Okay.
So we made our first record in 2004,
Hmm.
and I graduated in 2004.
Okay.
So um, we recorded the record, and then I'm trying to remember the exact timeline. Actually, no, what happened was I got tendonitis right after I graduated,
Oh,
and I moved back to my parents' house because I couldn't play any gigs because I couldn't play guitar.
back in
So
Jersey?
yeah, so I didn't play guitar for like 6 months. It was rough. Um, then I finally got it together, and I met this guy who did this thing called Oshinotherapy, which was like deep tissue massage
Hmm.
therapy. It was really helpful. Kind of brought it back, and I've Mike League went to him too, and several other people. Nate Worth went to him at one point.
Okay.
Really helpful. So then I moved back to Texas because I was like, well, I got to go back and like make some money and play
Hmm.
some gigs and stuff. So then I was there, and then I think that's when we recorded the first record.
Okay.
So it was around that same time. And then I moved to New York in like 2006.
Gotcha. And I asked this same question to Chris, but were you paying much mind on that first album to the fact that there were two separate guitar players, and sometimes the mix of like lead and rhythm isn't necessarily purely defined to the album, but more like to the song? Were you
Mm.
paying much mind in thinking that you wanted to have a thing that defined you on that album versus how Chris was playing? Was there thought to like, oh, if it's this type part, just this type of part, Chris will do it, and if it's this type of part, I'll do it? Was there much thought of that, or is it just kind of what came naturally?
I think it was sort of natural. I mean, I think sort of, I guess subconsciously, we're all always playing to our strengths
Hmm.
and what seems the most natural for us to do. So I think with and also of course with Mike's direction at times too, we kind of fell into what seemed the most appropriate for us individually.
Hmm.
Um, so it was I guess maybe it was a little bit talked about, but probably more just sort of natural, I think.
Okay. How
So,
did you feel?
but
Sorry, keep going.
me and Chris had played together a lot too, so we kind of knew each other. I mean, everyone in the band knew each other well and had played in several other groups together.
Gotcha.
So that really helped, I think, have everything gel.
Okay. When that first album came out, how did you feel the reception of it was like immediately after? Had you felt like, oh, this people are really starting to dig this. We're getting
Mhm.
something going, or was that like way down the road?
That was way down the road. I didn't think anything of it at all. I mean, to me, it was like Mike League wants to make a solo record. Cool. Sweet. He wants me to play on it. Awesome. So I did it. And then shortly after that, I moved to New York and I didn't think about it at all. I thought it was cool. I thought I liked the songs and everything, but I didn't think that anything would happen.
Really?
It was just kind of like, I mean, so many people made records at the time, and they would just make an album and then the next album they made would be something else,
Hmm.
so I didn't know that he was going to write more music and want to do another one with the same band members. you know. So
Was Snarky Puppy the first group where you had felt like eventually, not initially, but eventually that you had kind of made it in a sense that you were going to be comfortable?
um eventually I felt that, but it was years later.
Do you remember any specific point?
Well, I think when Mike had the songs for the second record is when I really started to realize that he had something really special,
Mm-hmm.
that was really unique and advanced, you know. And because I thought those songs were really great.
Gotcha.
And so but then, then we started touring, and then it was like really, we were like playing for sometimes like seven people. So, so it was very, very slow, but I felt like the music was continuing to get better. The band was continuing to get better. And then, like logistical stuff and money stuff very slowly got better. So it was just kind of like there didn't seem any reason to stop it, you
Were you
know?
having any doubts thinking like, you know, as good as this band is, at the end of the day, it's a jazz-esque fusion group, which
Mhm.
I mean, honestly, in the last, 20 years, before Snarky Puppy existed, was essentially, impossible to get a mainstream audience really going.
Mhm.
So were you
Yeah.
thinking like, as good as we are, should I really be devoting this much time into a genre that in the last, couple decades is kind of unproven for real success?
Yeah, I didn't really think about it. It was just, I mean, I enjoyed doing it, and it seemed like it was continuing to grow.
Hmm.
And so that was enough for me to want to keep going. I didn't have anything holding me down. I didn't have a family. I didn't have many bills. It was just kind of like, what else am I going to do? You know?
Did you enjoy
Um,
being on the road in
yeah,
those early days, even when it was like no one watching?
yeah, because there was always like a good show here and there where there would be a lot of people that were really enthusiastic, you know.
Gotcha.
So that would kind of push you through, you know. But it was also the right time, like I don't think I could do it now like that. I mean, we were like sleeping on floors of house parties,
Yeah.
and like sleeping in the bus or in the van. It was rough.
But at the end of the day, you just get to hang out with your friends.
Yeah. I mean, we were friends and the music felt good and it was getting better. So that was kind of enough to keep us going. And then every once in a while we would go through a town where one of the band members' parents lived, and then we would stay there.
That
And
must
then
have
it was
felt like
like,
you were in heaven.
oh, it was amazing. It was like, sleeping in a bed, or even if it's just a couch, it's like a nice couch, and like maybe there's a dog there, and like there's a home cooked meal. It
Uh-huh.
was like, I mean, those days like made it. It was a good like recharger.
Hmm. And I
So
had when I had Maz on the show in. What's funny? I said those words exactly last week to Chris, and I have the same thing where I can't remember when he was on. I think it was December, something like that. Oh, I feel awful. I can't keep track of the months, especially last year. That one I give myself a pass on that one. Keep the months straight.
yeah,
But when Maz was on, he talked about the different vibe of everyone in the band and how some of the guys were like, the show's done, I'm going to bed. That's kind of the thing. And how other guys were out like, enjoying themselves partying. And
yeah,
I asked Chris that question, and I'm going to ask it to you too because I like getting the vibe of the whole group. How are you on
yeah.
that scale? Are you going home every night going like, damn, we got to go do another show. I got to stay focused. Or are you like, I'm having fun. I'm going to go drink and, party.
Well, I don't think my feeling was I got to stay focused for the show. I don't think my head was in that space yet, but I think I'm just inherently though not like a big partier. So
Hmm.
if I might have like one or two nights a week where I would like kind of really get a little turned up, you know, and then the rest of the time I would go to bed at a reasonable hour. But it was like I said, I mean, sometimes there was just nowhere to go to
Hmm.
sleep until everything died down. So it was like sometimes you'd have no choice but to wait until 4 in the morning or something.
Were there any nights where you were like, shit, I don't even know where I'm like, we don't have a place to sleep? Like you were genuinely almost certain that you didn't know where you're gonna go at all.
Yeah, I think that happened a couple times. But
Really?
yeah, I think so. But I mean, I guess, after the first couple of tours, we had met at least a few people that, had houses or apartments in whatever city, and they were like fans, and we would usually stay there. Usually there'd be some kind of party or hang,
Hmm.
and we just, it would, I mean, as far as I could tell, it seemed like it was almost understood that we were going to just stay there. Maybe Mike asked them if we could, but I'm sure he probably did actually. But it felt like it was just like we went to go hang out and then we just fell asleep.
Gotcha.
That's how
How
it
is
felt.
it? How is it that like you saw the crowd growing as you were touring more? Was it one of those things where it's like, there was this amount of people, now there's two more. So did you see it like this kind of very linear growth, or is it more like growth and then plateau and then growth and then plateau?
It's a good question. I don't really remember. I mean, I think it was basically pretty gradual,
Hmm.
especially in the US. Um, and then, but in Europe, the first time we went to Europe was the first time we saw big crowds, and it was like really weird.
Had you anticipated that going to Europe?
I don't think so.
Oh,
I
so just a
mean,
straight surprise?
yeah, yeah, basically. It was
That must
like,
have been amazing.
I think Mike had heard that there was a lot of talk about it, so he expected it to be pretty good, but we didn't know. I don't think any of us, including him, were prepared for how many people were there.
What year was this?
Um, God, I have no idea. 2012,
Okay, so
something
it's
like
right
that.
about when Ground Up came out.
Yeah,
Okay,
I would say right around that time.
gotcha.
So then it was like, I mean, I remember we played to huge crowds in Europe, and then we went back to the States and we played like for 7 people at a karaoke bar.
That's almost worse. Like, I honestly playing
Yeah.
for a couple people and getting used to that is so much better than, especially I must have been going to Europe and then you come back and it's that like you can see that drop off. That
Yeah.
must have did that in like any way make you think like, oh, well, maybe if I don't move to Europe, like I'm not going to be able to sustain myself for the rest of my life.
Well, not so much that. It just made me feel like, well, it was kind of that thing that you hear other musicians say all the time, that it's just Europe is just so much more interested in, I don't know if it's art or music or if it's just American art or music, but they're so much more willing to come out and see music, and it's amazing how hard the US is. But it also felt like if you could break here, then it's like the rest of the world is so much easier.
Hmm. So it's kind of like you get
you
your
know?
training wheels on and you kind of get the shit beaten out of you while you're in America. And then you get to go
Yeah.
enjoy it a little bit overseas. I have a mosquito flying around my face right now. I don't know if you can see that, but as I'm
I
talking,
can't.
this thing keeps buzzing on my microphone. I left my window open last night so I didn't have to pay for my air conditioner, and that was
Yeah.
a bad decision. So if I keep randomly like hitting my nose and stuff,
Okay.
that's the reason. But Jesus, this mosquito just knocked me completely off track. Uh, how did the crowds react? They came in better numbers to shows in Europe, but how did they react to the music? Just purely like, did they clap as loud? Are they the type of people that are screaming? Are they more like a focused, enjoying the actual art of it, or are they there for like having a good time? And how does that compare to the audiences in America?
It really depends on where you are. It's
Gotcha.
it's and it depends on where you are in the US too.
Do you think more
Um,
so in Europe that it depends on where you are than in the US? I mean, I guess because in Europe you're probably in completely different countries, whether in the US you're just in different cities.
yeah, but it's pretty major differences in the US too, just in different cities. But
Hmm.
like thinking of an example, like I'm trying to think of of a good example. Some places they're a listening crowd, and some places they're just partying.
What do you prefer to
Um,
play to?
I like the variety.
Gotcha.
It's nice to change it up.
Do you think
Um,
do you think that livelihood of a party crowd brings out a certain level of energy from the band where maybe they're not playing as cleanly because they know, you guys, you're not, these people aren't analyzing every note you're doing. They're just there
mhm,
to have a good time. Do you think
yeah.
it brings out in you specifically, did it bring out a thing where it's like, maybe I'm not playing as cleanly, but from an artistic point of view, I'm playing better? Or are you just, or do you think that when you're playing more accurately, when you're playing your parts is at absolute top notch, that's when you're at your best?
Yeah, I'd say the latter.
Gotcha.
I feel, I mean, and I like quiet crowds, I guess, because I like being able to really, go many places musically.
Hmm.
I like having the whole spectrum, of, being able to play really soft, being able to
Gotcha.
do like intros for a song, or maybe like two people are playing just together for a little while.
Yeah. So you
And it's
prefer
nice.
the more sober crowds are better for that kind of stuff for sure.
Yeah. And you can't really do that stuff as well when there's, people talking, or
Hmm.
if it's super loud. But, sometimes like some of the real funky stuff maybe feels a little off in the really, really quiet crowds when they're just sitting there like, you know, it's like, so it's nice to have that, have a balance. I mean, playing for crowds where people are dancing and stuff like that is fun in a totally different way. So,
Do you think there's more stress with a crowd that is technically educated because you have to not just you have to impress them on a technical level, or is it more, I hate the word daunting, but more daunting to play for a crowd that's just there to have a fun time? Because if a crowd's there to have a fun time and they don't have a fun time, they're going to be absolutely miserable to you.
yeah, yeah, that's a good point. Oh man, I don't know. Like, I think it's, well, God, I don't know how to answer that.
It's okay.
It's
Honestly,
like,
sometimes I ask questions and then I go afterward. I'm like, I don't know how someone came up with an answer for that because I wouldn't be able to.
no, I mean, like, yeah, I mean, it's yeah, I don't know.
I always preferred I like the risk of a bunch of angry drunk people because I find that I'm at my best when the risk is at the absolute highest, which is I say this all the time on the show, but this is why I do the show live because I feel like
Yeah.
if I did this when and there was no pressure of people watching live,
Hmm.
that I would probably be worse than I am. So I would just, I'd feel like I'd be stumbling a lot because there's no pressure. It's like, oh, you just edit it out. It's fine.
Yeah, right.
And I that's kind of, especially in New York City, was playing live music in New York City.
Hmm.
I've always found that I think I play my best when I go, these people are gonna boo the hell out of us if
Hmm.
they go home bored tonight, and
Yeah.
that's just there's something that kicks in for me. But
Yeah,
that's
I
just
see.
my perspective
Yeah,
of
I
it.
think, I mean, putting it that way, I think that it's like more natural for me to want to be able to like edit stuff.
Hmm.
I think that's more my nature, but I've had to sort of pull myself out of that because I really do like improvising, and I see the value in living in the moment in that way.
Do you feel that rut that sometimes you get into when you over edit things? Because there's almost like the uncanny valley of being a perfectionist, where it's like
Hmm.
you can do something and it's getting better, and then it gets to such a point that it like drops off because you get into like stuck in this
Hmm.
loop of just
Yeah.
nitpicking things that don't really matter, and the product ends up suffering. Do you feel
Yeah.
yourself going into that a lot?
Um, I do feel myself going there, and I think I've sort of like been able to teach myself to not to catch myself before it gets to that point
Hmm.
now, because like that is my instinct to like over edit things or something, but I know that it doesn't make for better music, you know. And
For
I think
sure.
like there's a certain vulnerability to like things not being what you think is perfect, you know.
Hmm.
And like I think we as artists, we like to see vulnerability in art that we consume, you know, but we don't want to be vulnerable ourselves.
That's actually a really good point.
So it's like you kind of have to let go of that ego and allow it allow yourself to be vulnerable. I think that if something is wrong to the point that it's distracting and it's not getting the point across, then that's not okay. But if it's just something is not what your ideal is of what you think it of as perfect, then it maybe it's better that way, you know.
Also,
Not
imperfection. I
be.
think imperfection is more likely to breed perfection in the future, you know? Because every time you,
Mhm.
like you're saying, how many things fail. Every time you fail at something, it really does, like, it's kind of like stepping on stairs to the next thing you do that's only going to be better.
Mhm.
When you were back in those early days of touring with the band, were you looking back on your old shows? Like, I guess, well, were you taking a lot of recordings of them?
I didn't take a lot personally. I mean, I had heard several here and there, and I think it's good to sort of like check in
Hmm.
to see like if things are feeling right and all of that. It's like sometimes things feel a certain way, and then when you listen to them, they actually sound quite different than you thought. You
Did
know,
you
so
ever
I think
find,
it's
sorry, keep going.
I was gonna say I think it's good to check in on that stuff, but I don't. But I also don't think it's good to overdo it. You
Hmm.
know,
Did you
um,
ever find yourself getting like stuck in this kind of rut where you know that the night before wasn't your best, and so that kind of means that the next night you're so focused on not doing it that it almost ends up being worse because you're just like kind of in this negative rut
mm,
where you're being too critical on what you did before. So
yeah,
just in terms of live performances, was that
yeah,
something that especially early on you were going through?
yeah, definitely. That definitely happened. You know, sometimes also what I would find in me personally is that I'd feel particularly good about a certain song or something, and then there would be a point where it would start to go the other way,
Uh huh.
but then you have to keep playing it every night. So it's like trying to like find a way to continue being inspired enough to do something with it, you know.
Hmm.
It's a challenge. I still don't know the answer to that,
I don't
you
think
know.
anyone really does, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't know if there really is one. It's just trying to find something in the music or something in yourself, really, actually, maybe even more so,
Hmm.
to
Going back
like inspire you.
Yeah. Going back to those days, especially like you said, coming right back from Europe and seeing the decline in the amount of people that are consistently coming out and how the audience or audiences are reacting. When you were in Europe, were you still on that like sleeping on people's couches type of vibe every night, or when you were getting those types of packing audiences, were you able
Mhm.
to finally be comfortable and relax?
I think, by that point, even in the States, by that point, we weren't really doing that anymore. We were kind of getting hotels and sharing rooms, though.
Okay.
So that was cool. We were getting not great hotels, but like, you know, maybe at a couple years before then, we were getting hotels, but we were putting like four people in one room, So like the guys would be like sharing beds and stuff.
If I had to put
But I,
four of my friends in one room, I think we'd kill each other in like
yeah,
2 hours.
that's how we did that for a while. And then, but I think by the time we were going to Europe, we were kind of doing like at least our own beds.
Okay. Well, that's nice.
Yeah.
That at least
So
we get to be kind of comfortable.
yeah, I mean that's what I was saying. It was always progressing
When
to
did the American audiences pick up and really start to match that level of that first tour in Europe?
um I would say maybe after the first Grammy, maybe
Okay, so that's 2014, I think.
2013,
Okay,
2013. So
For the Lala Hathaway track, right?
yeah, Layla Hathaway. Yeah. So I think by like 2014, things were pretty good everywhere, for the
Okay,
most part.
and then you were
You know,
like, I'm set. I'm good.
well, I mean, by the time we won that, it seemed like it was just going to keep getting better,
Okay.
in terms of like financially and also accommodations and stuff.
Did the fact that you guys were doing at that point, you're doing all these albums live, did
Hmm.
that go directly? I mean, it did go directly against the fact that you like to nitpick things. Was that something that you thought was a fun challenge, or you're like, man, I wish we could just go into the studio and just do it like we did before?
No, I liked it. I thought it was cool. I thought it was a cool idea. I thought it was like a brave idea.
Hmm.
Um, and we did. we had multiple takes of each tune too, so that made it a little bit less daunting. It wasn't like just one take and then that's what's on the record. It was like there was like maybe 4 shows or something that we would have to choose from.
Mm-hmm.
So that definitely made it easier. But I love being in the studio. So I love like overdubbing and doing layers of guitars. So that was it was fun to go back into the studio after not doing it as a band for so long.
Gotcha. What was the most challenging live album to do, whether it was the music or just the situation you were in?
It's hard to say for me. I mean, I'm sure Mike would probably say the first one because it was so complicated and we had never done it before.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I would
Tell Your Friends was the first live album, right?
Tell Your Friends, yeah.
Gotcha.
Maybe that one.
Was that like a shit show trying to get it done because you were just like basically learning how to make a full album live?
Yeah, but it was for us for the just the band members, it was just kind of like sitting around waiting for things to get fixed that were problematic.
Gotcha. Just like technical issues.
Yeah, I mean, there was nothing we could really do, so we were just waiting. So there's a lot of that, but I think if you asked Mike or someone who was trying to fix problems, they could give you a lot.
Tech issues are absolutely demoralizing because it's like you're trying to make something good, and then it's the worst part is that whenever there's a tech issue, like I like to go, oh, it's just because the cable's bad and all this, but subconsciously in the back of the head, you're going, I did something wrong, and that's why this isn't working correctly, and that just like kind of eats at you. Yeah, that's always the absolute worst.
It's a crazy setup though. Those live records are like, there's just like so many wires all over the place.
What about playing?
It's crazy.
Do you like playing in front of cameras? Do you feel like that brings a new energy to it? Do you think the fact that you're on camera or the fact that there's a live audience there brings more to how you're playing?
Not so much the camera, but the audience definitely.
Okay.
I don't think about the camera much, but the audience being there is really nice. I mean, that's why we started doing it in the first place, was because we liked the energy of the live shows. We liked having the audience to play off.
Gotcha. Do you ever go back and watch the videos of the show? Like, because I have so much video of myself now that I go like, oh geez, I wish I didn't, wear this or do this. Do you ever go back and you're like, oh, why'd they have to show that angle? That kind of a thing.
Oh yeah, there's a couple of those moments here and there.
It's those things that you're the only person who'll ever notice it.
Yeah, hopefully.
So then skipping ahead, so you win all these Grammys, and then you come out with your debut album, which is Whose Feet Are These That Are Walking, and that comes out in 2017. So that's about 3 or 4 years after the first Grammy, and right after Culture Vulture, like a year after Culture Vulture, I think. Yeah. Who are the main artists? I mean, obviously besides the Beach Boys, because there's that cover on there. Who are the main artists that you drew from when you were composing that record?
Well, I'd always been into like songwriting. Like I said, I was a huge Beatles fan and all that. I would say a couple years before I wrote most of those songs, I had gotten really into like classic country. So I was really into like Loretta Lynn and Willie Nelson and Patsy Cline and all these great songwriters with like this great production. Owen Bradley, the producer, who sort of like came up with like the Nashville sound, basically created the Nashville sound, basically. All that stuff was a big influence on me. So I started writing songs with that aesthetic in mind a little bit. So and then I ended up getting a pedal steel player, a guy named Philip Sturck, to play pedal steel on the record too. Besides that, I was really into Frizzell. I've always been into him. And I was really into Wayne Krantz.
Gotcha.
So I think, it was a combination of those things, those elements, I think.
Yeah.
And the concept for that record really was that I wanted to treat my guitar as like kind of like a lead vocalist.
Did you go into that album thinking like, I want to make a country type record, or is it just what happened just as you were writing it?
Yeah, no, I didn't want it to be necessarily country. I knew that that was going to be an element of it, you know.
Gotcha.
So, but I wanted to think of myself as a lead vocalist, and then I
Hmm.
wanted to, and every instrument I wanted to kind of have this role of being, fit like doing a thing that you would normally hear them do on a country record, for instance. But then there was moments where they would break out of that typical role and do something different. So
Gotcha.
you might hear pedal steel like playing country esque comping, but then there's like a big like abstract section or a bluesy section, and I would be like the lead vocalist, but then there would be a moment where I would solo and it would be more aggressive. And so I kind of wanted to sort of like play off those ideas of having a set thing and then having them leave that to go into something else. Like
Gotcha.
that's I think it's kind of really obvious on like the vocals on Happy Stranger,
Hmm.
the background vocals.
Yeah.
Um that I wanted that to sound like something you might hear on like Patsy Cline record,
Hmm.
you know. But then at the
That's
end, they're like improvising and stuff. So it's like they have these parts that are specific, and then they break out of that role and they're improvising at the end, you know.
that's that first song. That's the first track on the album, right?
That's the second.
Second track. Okay. That there's a video game called Planet Coaster, and that was all
Mhm.
I could think about in that whenever I hear that track is it has that similar vibe of having more like a lush sound with like the vocals in the back.
Mm.
If the people who made that game, I may have mentioned this to Chris too. Man, I'm figuring out all the times that my brain thinks the same way.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, the soundtrack for Planet Coaster is like as soon as I heard Happy Strangers, I was like, oh, this is that same kind of vibe, and I love that kind of thing of having
that's
those like
funny.
more lush vocals in the background, you know.
Yeah.
Where did the name for the album come from? Because I know there's a children's book. I wrote it down. Is it
Oh,
Whose
really?
Feet Are These? That's just the name
Oh.
of it. And I've actually the reason I thought about it is because I heard the name of the album and I was like, I know that I've seen part of this before. And
Hmm.
apparently there's like a children's book series. I think
Wow,
if
I
you
never heard of that.
yeah, I recognize the album or the not the album art, the book cover for it.
Hmm.
So I guess it's something that's somewhat popular, but I didn't know if that had any influence on it.
No, I never heard of that. I got it from I was reading this book. Uh, I forget what it was even called. Maybe Music and Sound or something by
Hmm.
Hazrat Inayat Khan,
Gotcha.
who was like a Sufi master but also a musician. And there was a phrase in there. He was talking about. I'm gonna get this wrong. I don't remember what it was, but I want to say it was maybe uh like a like a group of Buddhists or some Buddhist school where they would say this thing in it was in Sanskrit maybe,
Hmm.
which translated to whose feet are these that are walking. And the point of it was to sort of remind yourself of being in the present moment of what you're doing right now,
Hmm.
you know. But I thought the idea was kind of cool and I liked the phrase. So that's where it came from.
What track on the record do you think sums up your writing style the most concisely? Like if you had to show someone this is how I write music, this is what I sound like, what track would you send them? Or is it a track that's unreleased? Is it not even on the album?
Mm. Ooh, wow. Well, maybe Happy Stranger,
Hmm.
maybe Anonymous, maybe one of those two.
Hmm.
I would say that I feel like personally, my favorite is probably Happy Stranger.
You think that's the most Bob Lanzetti-ish? I guess the best way to describe it.
Maybe. I mean, compositionally, I just think it's maybe the strongest one.
Gotcha.
Um, but yeah, I mean, when I do it live now, that's when I feel like it really sounds more like me.
Hmm.
Hearing that song live, I think would be a good example of my playing because it's like, you know, textural and sort of pretty song, and then at the end, it's much more rock and much more aggressive, and we've been going into like a really abstract ending even
Hmm.
after it. after the song sort of ends, there's like this long. Sometimes there's this long improvised section where everyone's improvising together, and it's just that. So I would say like one of those live clips would probably be the best example of me.
Gotcha. That makes sense. Do you have any plans now that studios are fully open now on making a second record?
I would love to. I got to write more music first.
Do you have any songs that are in the works that you think could be
Mhm.
finalized and put on a second album?
Yeah, I have a bunch of little ideas laying around. I just need to
Gotcha.
like sort of finish them. There's one tune that's done, but it might be more of a Snarky tune. So I might try and have Snarky record it.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, and then there's another one that is also probably going to be a Snarky esque vibe. So, but then there's a couple like other things here and there that I think would fit my stuff.
Have you written any songs that you thought, oh, this is going to Snarky Puppy, and then you went, actually, maybe no, I'll this will be my solo stuff.
Um, well, Anonymous was recorded by Snarky. So that's one, and then I recorded it myself too.
What record is that on? What's Snarky
It's
Puppy
it's
record?
I think it's just like an extra track on Tell Your Friends. It
Oh.
might not. I don't even think it's on the actual CD,
Oh, okay.
but it was like released online.
I guess I haven't heard I don't think I've heard the I guess the extended version of that album. Man,
Mhm.
I should know that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure you could just find it on YouTube.
Oh, okay. Did it come
Yeah,
out like a while ago, or did it come out with because you guys released a vinyl pressing of that record, right? Like a
yeah,
year or two ago?
yeah. It came out recently, and I think it was released in some format at the time as well. But
Gotcha.
I'm not even 100% sure.
Yeah, because you guys
So,
had a song that was, I think it was a Japan only. It was years ago. I think it was Shark Tank that was off
oh
like
yeah,
what album? I can't even remember what album that was on.
we
I
recorded
didn't
that one a couple times.
wait, really?
Yeah, but I think for whatever reason it wasn't released, but it might have been on Culture Vulture, maybe Japan
Yeah, I
release,
think it was
maybe.
the Japanese version of Culture Vulture because I saw a video of you guys playing it. I got to go back in my head. This is probably
Hmm.
yeah, I guess early 2016. Someone took a video of a live show of
Yeah,
you guys playing it,
yeah,
and
we played it like there was a tour or two where we were playing it fairly regularly, I think.
yeah, I remember Larnell had a big solo at the end of that. So it was kind of
Oh
like
yeah,
I think people were kind of thinking of it as like, what about me number two? You like version two.
yeah.
Yeah. Here, before I let you go, I have a couple questions in the comments. This first one comes
Okay.
from Ian Aris. I think he was here in the last show actually. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. When did you start doing the ambient slash soundscape stuff?
Ah, um, I think. Well, I was kind of always into that. My old teacher that I had mentioned earlier, Chris Bono, um, used to do a lot of cool stuff with delay. Actually, he still does a lot of cool stuff with
Hmm.
delays and volume pedal. So that was kind of like when I first got into it. Um, so yeah, I mean, I got myself a delay pedal and a volume pedal, and I was like doing that a lot. So that was, it's kind of been a part of me since I was like 17 or 18. But I
Gotcha.
would say like, when I started really checking out a lot of music that wasn't guitar music is when
Hmm.
I got deeper into it. Um, I started checking out certain electronic music like Aphex Twin, and I was really into Bjork, so like these things that weren't guitar based music at all, maybe didn't have guitar at all. And then I sort of tried to start emulating some of those sounds.
Gotcha.
And then that went even further when I really got into like a lot of like contemporary classical music,
Okay.
you
We
know.
get we got another one. This is
Hmm.
from oh geez, I should wear my glasses when I do this. I never do. Arthur Reckelberg, either Rockelberg or Reckelberg.
Okay.
First, they said found this interview through a friend who sent me the link. Amazing, thank you, Arthur. Also, tips and advice to students on college wanting to students in college wanting to start a band like Snarky Puppy, not in the sonic aspect, but the idea. I'm
Mm.
not. I guess like maybe the size of the band, the amount of people in the band. I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, interesting. I mean, I would say that's a good question. Um, I would say whatever you're trying to do, just don't do it out of a sense of trying to be successful.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you just want to be creating music that you believe in.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and if you're doing that, and then don't stop. You know, keep writing songs, keep getting together with your bandmates and play covers, play songs that you like, play your originals. You know, grow a sound together, whatever that sound is. It could sound like Radiohead, it could sound like Snarky Puppy, it could sound like Herbie Hancock. But it's like having a chemistry with the band that you're playing with is really the key, you know, and throwing yourself into situations that kind of stretch your abilities together. I mean, you know, Snarky did a lot of gigs in the beginning just out of necessity. We would have to play like a long gig or something, and we didn't have enough music. So we would have to learn like several covers, you know, for
Yeah.
example, you know, so it's sort of like, don't turn down a gig just because you don't have enough material. Just do it and find a way to do it, because then it's like you're growing together and you're adding things to your palette, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I do that with my band too. I mean, I don't have enough songs, really originals, to do like a 3-set gig, you know, so we'll end up doing a bunch of covers, but we'll do some country tunes, we'll do like maybe a Schofield tune, you know, kind of whatever seems like it could work well with the vibe, you know.
Absolutely.
So but the band really grows together that way. But I would say beyond all that, just like be writing, and even if you don't like it, maybe play it anyway.
Yeah.
And then write more, and then it'll get better.
Absolutely. Well, Arthur, there you go. The man himself. There's your answer. Bob, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Anything you'd like to say before I let you go? Anything you want to push? Want to push the album? Go check out Bob's album. I'll do that for you real quick. Whose feet are these that are walking? I had to write it down because I was going to flip one of the words around. Go check it out. I think it's everywhere. You can get it. Is there vinyl of it?
There's not vinyl of it. There's CDs, which nobody has CD players anymore.
Yeah, that's true.
But it's also on my website. It's on Spotify. It's on Bandcamp. I also released a record of some of Bach's music, Johann Sebastian Bach. So that's on Bandcamp as well. So check that out. And then also I released the True Fire video, or a True Fire course recently, which is like a online masterclass with all different guitar players, you know. So that is available as well. Just you can go to truefire.com and, you know, search Bob Lanzetti.
Awesome.
And that'll come up. And then if you're in the Midwest, check out me and Zach and Keita. We're going to be coming through in like the end of July.
All those shows are all fully booked? Like they're all the dates are set?
I don't think they're all like totally confirmed, but you know, they'll be confirmed soon.
Where can they get the dates? BobLanzetti.com?
Yeah, they're probably not up there right now. I don't think I put them up there yet, but I will put them up there soon. So keep checking back and you'll see them.
I'll link to Bob's website in the description, so when that does come up, you can go check them out.
Cool.
Well, Bob, thank you so much. Thank you to everyone who is watching. There's a guy on a motorcycle outside my house.
That's New York.
That's New York. And a couple times today, like a couple times during this interview, people were going by with loud-ass cars. We'll be live next week. Bob, will you stick around for 1 second?
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone. I'll see you guys next week.
Thank you.
Wow.